Dear friends, we start Parashas Kedoshim, which actually the first Rashi, the first Rashi in the first verse actually also appeared in this morning's Daf Yomi. So I want to say that today is the 27th of Nisan. Tonight is when we observe Yom HaShoah. So of course we study today in memory of those murdered, and I want to mention specifically some people from my family. I'm going to say from my family, hold on, that I want to remember my great uncle Mendel Hertzfeld and his sister, my great aunt Miriam Lichtenstein, and all of their children who were killed in Auschwitz, and also there's Devorah Silberman, who was born in 1924. Basically, my father's uncles and aunts were killed in Auschwitz. Well, they took them from Antwerp, brought them to Auschwitz, and put them in the crematorium. My father would have been killed except for my grandmother's courage in forcing them to leave. But the Kedoshim, yeah, they were the Kedoshim. So this week's parasha is Kedoshim, and they were the Kedoshim. They were the holy ones. So Daber al kol hadas b'nei Israel, speak to all the children of Israel. Ve'amar ta'ohem, and say to them, Kedoshim to you shall be holy. Ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem, because I am holy. Ki kadosh ani, I am holy, Hashem your God. Now, what does it mean? We had this in this morning's daf, so I'll come to that in a moment. First, it says, "Speak to the children of Israel." Melamed shenemra parsha zu b'hakel. That this passage was taught to the entire assembly of Bnei Israel. Means to say, everybody had to be there when he taught it. When he taught other portions, individuals had the right to play hooky, so to speak. But this one, everybody had to be there. Because the essential aspects of the Torah are in these verses. The essential aspects. And what's the essential aspect of the Torah? Kedoshim to you shall be holy. Now, what does it mean you shall be holy? Rashi tells us here something, but Rashi on today's daf tells us a different explanation. Rashi on this portion tells us, have a prusha min arayos. Rashi says to be holy means to be especially careful in the areas of sexual morality. To be especially careful. Umina avera, and from sin. Especially it means sexual sins. Wherever you find the restrictions of sexual immorality, atamotse kedusha, you find holiness. You find the word kadosh. It says, Isha zona v'chola, ani Hashem mekadeschem. Lo yichalel zaro, ani Hashem mekadsho, kedoshim yu, Isha zona v'chola. So Rashi is pointing out, now whenever the Torah mentions the word sexual immorality, it mentions holiness juxtaposed. Now it's not pleasant, and you're not supposed to talk about this in large groups because it's immodest. Yeah, we have to be discreet how we talk about it. When there's a reason why so many leaders and figures stumble in this area, and it's a very great challenge to many people. And I'm not minimizing that, but it's telling us that the path to holiness it comes through figuring out how to control itself in this area. And the path to spiritual greatness, one of the ways you could tell a great spiritual leader is how they conduct themselves in this area. So that's the way Rashi says, Kedoshim to you is something extremely specific. Rashi says Kedoshim Tiyu is very specific. Chapter 19, verse 1 of Vayikra. What page is it? 652. So it's something very specific here. Guy, you're welcome to join us right here. We have plenty of space for you. Now what? Oh, you brought out marshmallows. Beautiful, guy. Love that guy. Love that. So, you know what, guy? You know the expression "you're a marshmallow" means you're a softie. That means you're a sweetie pie. No, but not that book. Do the red book. Do the red book. But I'll actually take that book that's in your right hand. In your book. I'll take that for a second because I want to quote it. So it's a shahakol. So Rashi says the obligation of Kedoshim Tiyu refers to something extremely specific. But if you go to today's Daf Yomi, and today's Daf Yomi was 67. Today's Daf Yomi is 67. The Daf Yomi mentions that there's a type of business transaction which for everybody else is permitted because we don't have to be concerned that it's the prohibited category of interest. But for a Torah scholar, which the Daf Yomi calls a tsurba me'rabanan, for a Torah scholar, it's prohibited. Why? Rashi says, for the Torah scholar, it's prohibited because, Rashi says, shetzarich, the Torah scholar is required liyasher drachav, to make his path upright. And how so? Ulehiskadesh af b'mutarlo, to separate himself even from those things that are permitted. It's just unseemly for a rabbi to act in this way. So, for example, Pen Yomadumi Menu was Alzel Be'isurin. Lest they learn from him to be mizalzel, to disrespect prohibitions. So therefore, the Torah scholar, as we discussed this morning, Moshe, is, and this is what Kedoshim Tiyu is, that even if something is permitted, the Torah scholar is supposed to abstain from that behavior. And we got a chumash, Elon, from down there, there's a chumash. You don't see any? Kedoshim. No, you don't see the red books? They're done? If I go over there, am I going to find any, Elon? Okay, I trust Elon, but they have upstairs. If you go into the upstairs, there's right in the entrance to the room we daven in, there's a bookcase with chumashim. They see them. Eitan sees them. There you go. There you go. Give one to Kobe too. Thank you, Eitan. So what he's saying is, what Rashi's saying here is that the Torah scholar must separate himself even from those things that are permitted. Because if there's something that's a gray area, but we rule that it's okay to do, if the Torah scholar does that, then everybody else will start doing the things that violate even that are prohibited. Because the people look at the Torah scholar and they think, oh, the Torah scholar is much holier than me. So if they're doing A, I'll just have to be a B plus. I'm not saying this is the correct attitude, but this is the attitude. It's like, I don't have to be as great as Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe went to this. He did to the mikveh 6 times a day, so I'll go 4. The Lubavitcher Rebbe wore 4 pairs of tefillin, so I'll wear 2. People will just say, I'll be a little bit less. So if the Torah scholar is just going straight up to the line, then everybody does a little bit less. They'll be in violation. So that's what Rashi says. This is what the Torah scholar has to do, separate him. In order to be holy, you have to go beyond the line. Don't go just straight up to the line. That's yes, my dear friend Greg.
It seems like the Torah scholar is like fence.
He's putting up a fence, like we saw in yesterday's Pirkei Avos. You have to make a fence for the Torah, but Rashi's saying that that's what it means to be holy. You have to push yourself beyond the law. That's what I was saying. I called up a couple of people here today, and I said, Are you ready to push yourself to achieve great spiritual greatness? Because once a month we daven sunrise on Rosh Chodesh. This Wednesday morning is Rosh Chodesh. The sunrise is 6:05. So once a month we push ourselves to achieve spiritual greatness. So we start 22 minutes before sunrise, so 5:43. And obviously, everybody's accustomed to their routine, and we like to get up at whatever 6:15 or something. So, but once a month, we push ourselves to achieve greatness because we always want to try to do even better. We don't want to do the little. We don't want to just do the bare minimum. Let me give you another example. This coming Sunday is one of the great days of the year, Mother's Day. Right? We give honor to the mothers. I mean, let's face it, we all have a mother. We all have or had a mother. So, and we all recognize what they did for us to be in this world, just their unbelievable dedication. So if we do on Mother's Day, if we let's say we hear that our mother likes chocolate, so we just bring home like a box of chocolate and we just shove it on the table. Here, grab a chumash. What's your name, my friend? What? Aaron, are you related to Akiva? So you got to get a chumash from upstairs, or just look on with Akiva. I think we might be done. So if you just sit down here, you'll just follow along. You'll just follow. So if you just bring home a box of chocolate, throw it on the table, and say, "There, I did Mother's Day. I gave you a box of chocolate." It's just done out of an obligation. But if you go to the store, you get a beautiful box, you wrap it, and you maybe bring two boxes, and you say, "This is for the greatest person who gave up everything for me selflessly so that I could be here, be a part of, have all the things that you don't have just so that I could be happy." Then it's an indication of just how much you love your mother. And so that's like what it is. To be holy is to go the extra level in service of Hashem. We're not just doing the bare minimum, we're going beyond it because that's how much we want to push ourselves to achieve spiritual greatness. Yeah, for sure. Mother's Day should be every day is Mother's Day. We have to show our appreciation, but it's also nice to take a day to do extra, not out of an obligation, but out of just out of love, because we can't do it every day. It's just not possible, but anyway, so that's the first. We haven't even gone through the first verse because then it says, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them." The next verse says, "Ish imo va'aviv tiro." Each man, his mother and his father, you shall fear. Ve'esh shabsosai tishmaro, and my Shabbos you shall guard. I am Hashem your God. So the obvious issue here is it says each man shall fear his mother and his father. That's one question is, why are you supposed to, here it says fear your mother before your father, but when it comes to honoring, it says honor your kabed et avicha v'etimecha. It says honor your father and your mother. So why does your mother come before your father here? And when it comes to honor, your father comes before your mother. That's the one classic question. And the other classic question is, what does it have to do with the Shabbos? Why does it says, and then guard my Shabbos? What does it have to do with the Shabbos? So it says the Rashi, Ishimo vaviv tiro, kol echad mikem tirau aviv vimo. All of you must fear your father and your mother. Zeo pshuto, that's the simple meaning. The simple meaning is that all of you, ish means all of you. Umidrasho, eli ala ish, but the midrash says, wait, I might think only a man has to do it. Ish, I only know also a woman has to fear their mother and their father. There's the verse, tira'u, in the plural, you shall fear. All right, ein kan shnayim. Im kain, so that means that it's both a man and a woman. If that's the case, lama nemer ish. Why does it say a man has to fear his mother and father? Sha'ish sipek bi'ado la'asos, avo isha reshus acher malach. Telling us that sometimes a woman is not able to do it. She's not able to give the respect to her parents because let's say her husband tells her, we need to live in California, and she says, no, I want to live near my parents. So, but she entered into a marriage with her husband. As part of that, they have agreement that he gets part of the, everybody can enter into marriage with whatever agreement you want. But as part of that agreement, they agreed that he needs to make a living, and he needs to make a living. He has to go where his job takes him. So it's not always in her abilities to honor her father and mother because she maybe can't live near them to take care of them. So that's the so if there's a conflict, she has to give her first primary responsibility to her family of her husband before she goes to honor her parents. So that's why it says it like that. But then why does it say Ish imo v'aviv tiro? Rashi says kan hiktim emo av. In this context, the mother appears before the father, but by honor, the father appears before the mother. Anybody remember why? Classic answer. So Rashi tells us, because it's revealed before God that this was not always the case, but typically speaking, haben yarei esavev. Typically speaking, a son is more afraid of their father. Like their father is a dominating personality, and I guess it's especially when there were times where parents used to do like beat their children. People should not do that anymore. Absolutely not. But in the olden days, they spare the rod and spoil the kid. You know that theory. So the father used to hit the kids, so then they would be more afraid of their father. Yoser mi'imo. And bekibud hiktim avlaim. And when it comes to honoring, the Torah puts the father before the mother. If you should go in front of shabem mechabedes imo yoser mi'avav. Because typically speaking, a person, God knows that a person will give more honor to their mother than their father. So because she talks to him softly. So the Torah is saying, even though your most natural instinct is to fear your father, you have to fear your mother just as much as your father. Even though your most natural instinct is to honor your mother, you have to honor your father just as much as you honor your mother. So that's why the Torah reverses it to put it counterintuitively. And why does it say Shabso say Tishmaro? Why does it say to honor, fear your mother and father next to Shabbos? Tell us Samach Shmira Shabbos Lamora Av. To tell you that the guarding of the Shabbos is next to the fear of one's father. Omar Afal Pisha is Articha Al Mora Av Im Yomer Chachilelas HaShabbos Al Tishmelo V'chem Meshar Kol Mitzvos. To tell you that even though the God commands us to honor our father and mother, nevertheless, if your parents will tell you to desecrate the Shabbos, don't listen to him. And so too with all the commandments. The same God who told us to obey our father and mother told us to obey the Shabbos. So if our parents tell us not to obey the Torah, that's the exception where we don't have to listen to them. And then it says, Ani Hashem Elokechem, Hatav Avicha Chayavim Bekvodi. You and your father are obligated to honor me. Therefore it states, Lo Tishma Lo Avatel Dvari. Don't listen to your father when it comes to canceling my words. If your parents tell you to do something against the Torah, you don't have to listen. Now, what does it mean to give fear to your parents and to honor your parents? Ezu Mora, what constitutes fear of a parent? Well, Yeshiv Bimkomo, don't sit. It's very specific. Don't sit in their place. Goyidamar Bimkomo. When it's your parents' turn to speak, don't speak over your parent. Well, Yistor is Dvarav. Don't contradict your parents' words. So fear is three very specific things. You're not allowed to speak in your parents' place. You're not allowed to contradict your parents. And you're not allowed to sit where your parents typically sit. What does it mean to give honor? That you have a basic obligation. Machil, mashke, malbish, umanio, machnes, umotzi. Basic obligation. You have to feed him, give them to drink, make sure they have clothing and shoes, and escort and take them out. But it never says, this is going to be shocking, it never says you have to love your parents. It says you have to honor them. You have to do certain basic things, make sure they have food and they have drink. I'm going to share with you a very brief story. Just nobody move. Please don't move. Please don't move. I saw this story yesterday. We started studying this beautiful book on Shabbos afternoon, Pirkei Avos, and I saw this story. Yeah, it's just I don't know what to make of this story, but it's just incredibly meaningful. The story is the following. Let me tell you the story. I have to find it. I have to find it. I have to get you this story. Now, it was Shabbos, so I didn't write it down. I was reading it, so okay. I mean, I could tell you the story by heart, but it's not going to be as powerful. Okay. Okay. Wait, I know that you might be getting anxious, but I promise you it's worth it. I promise you, I promise you when I find this story, you're going to be you're going to say thank you for sharing it with me because it's going to give you goosebumps and you're going to have to think about what the story means. Not simple. Oh, okay. Here we go. The Sefer Chut HaMeshulash, the official biography of Rabbi Akiva Eger, his son-in-law, the Chasam Sofer, and the latter son, the Ksav Sofer, recounts an unusual incident that occurred when the Chasam Sofer was a young boy. Chasam Sofer is like the 19th century. It was the practice of his Rebbe, and he was the greatest rabbi of the 19th century. The greatest rabbi, I mean, no question. The practice of his Rebbe, the Chasam Sofer's Rebbe, Rav Nosson Adler, to have the Talmidim prepare a certain topic on their own, to take turns delivering their insights to the congregation on Shabbos, to the yeshiva. When it was the Chasam Sofer's turn, he related a difficult kasha, a difficulty, in the name of his great-grandfather, known as the Mahar Shashach. Okay. The Chasam Sofer then proceeded to explain that with all due respect, the Mahar Shashach had been mistaken, and that the question was not difficult at all. That's what the Chasam Sofer said. Upon hearing this, his father publicly slapped him on the cheek, angered at how his young son could have the chutzpah to say that his great-grandfather had made a mistake. When Rav Nosson Adler was told about the incident, he instructed the Chasam Sofer not to continue to speak to his father. The boy dutifully followed his Rebbe's instructions and reported them to his mother in the presence of his father, who accepted them respectfully. The Chasam Sofer honored his father as required, but never spoke with him from that day on. Afterwards, he left his parents' home and came to live with his Rebbe. Rav Adler felt that the Chasam Sofer would not be able to emerge to reach his potential if he was living in such a repressive environment. If whenever he would ask a question, his father would chastise him, he wouldn't be able to achieve his potential. Anyway, I just felt like this, to me, this story is very powerful for a lot of different reasons, and we don't have time to analyze it now, but I just felt that he didn't speak to his father again, but he continued to honor him. So it's very... How? Well, he made sure his father always had food and drink and clothing. He never spoke disrespectfully, but he couldn't be around him because his father wasn't obviously not a stable person. He was abusive, oppressive. And so somebody's abusive and oppressive, you don't have to speak with them. You don't have to express your love to them, but you do still have an obligation to honor them. So he moved out of the house. He didn't live with him anymore. He never spoke to him again, but he still continued to honor him. So, yeah, Aviva, and then we'll, yeah.